The United States has added more Zimbabweans to its sanctions list. According to government officials, the foreign minister Sibusiso Moyo was told 2 weeks ago that sanctions would be extended to more ministers at least until the general election. The sanctions are believed to include new ministers who have joined Mr. Mnangagwa's cabinet. Local media reports that the U.S. believes politicians deserve sanctions because it perceived President Emmerson Mnangagwa to have come to power in a military coup. The Ethiopian government has promised to release ailing opposition politician Bekele Gerber, even as massive anti-government protests continue in part of the country. There are indications that Mr. Gerber's charges will be dropped as the charges are being downgraded. He was arrested in December 2015 and is accused of having links to terror groups. He will now be released alongside 6 others who were arrested with him. Anti-government protesters in Ethiopia's biggest region, Oromia, are on the second day of a 3-day strike to demand the release of all politicians and journalists held during more than 2 years of unrest. The commander of the Somali National Army, General Abdullahi Ali Anod, says that their special forces have destroyed the main radio station of the Al-Shabaab militant group. As part of the operation in Mubarak town, southern Somalia, General Anod added that the forces seized an Al-Shabaab weapons depot that was full of explosives. Troops also destroyed 3 vehicles full of them. On Monday, the Somali National Army, supported by U.S. forces, overran 3 villages, including Mubarak in Lower Shabelle region, which were held by Al-Shabaab. The group later reported on their website, Somali Memo, that they took over the villages after the Allied forces withdrew. And Liberia's ex-president Ellen Johnson Sirleaf has won the $5 million Mo Ibrahim Prize for African Leadership. Ms. Sirleaf, who stepped down last month, became Africa's first elected female president in 2006. She was praised for her work rebuilding the nation after civil war and leading a process of reconciliation. The prize committee admitted that while she was accused of tolerating corruption, she had shown exceptional leadership in difficult times.
Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who handed over leadership of the war-scarred West African state to ex-international soccer star George Weah, is only the 5th person to win the 10-year-old award. Since its inception, the prize, founded by Sudanese telecoms tycoon Mo Ibrahim, has not been awarded on several occasions because there was no suitable candidate. The Mo Ibrahim Foundation praised Mrs. Johnson Sirleaf for exceptional and transformative leadership in helping stir Liberia's recovery from many years of civil war, an achievement confirmed by Liberian journalist Evelyn Siagbe.
Scores of Liberians I spoke with today said that they believe President Sirleaf deserves the award. All over the country, after the country came from 14 years of civil war that devastated the country, and according to them, she peacefully led the country to a transition after over 70 years to a new democratic elected government.
Johnson Sirleaf is a Harvard-trained economist who was the first democratically elected woman president in Africa when she won the Liberian election in 2005.
An opportunity to open the doors for more African women to hold high-level political positions. Challenging because I represent the aspirations and expectations of Liberian African women, maybe women all over the world, and therefore the pressure is on me to make sure that I succeed.
When she was sworn in for her first mandate in 2005, Mrs. Sirleaf inherited a country ruined by 14 years of civil war that killed more than 250,000 people, rampant corruption, a battered economy, and about $4.5 billion, which creditors took 5 years to cancel. In 2011, she was one of the trio of women who won a Nobel Peace Prize. 4 days later, she was re-elected president. Founded by freed American slaves, Liberia is Africa's oldest modern republic, but it has been plagued by years of unrest and bloodshed, including 2 civil wars notorious for their brutality and use of child soldiers. Temi Tokwe Fagbemi, reporting for Channels Television News.
Joining us now in the studio is Declan Ihekare. He's the National Coordinator, Activist for Good Governance. Glad you could join us on the program.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So first off, before we go, to the award, was she, better off as president of Liberia during her term in office?
Well, I think we need to give it to her being the first woman president in Africa that came in at a time that Africa was at war beyond Liberia, because what was happening in Liberia then had a kind of effect on other African countries. So he came at a time when everybody had lost hope in Liberia, and she was able to put everybody together to maintain peace in that war-torn country. We should not also forget the fact that women in Liberia also played vital role, during that crisis, during the war period, and that actually gave her a very clear access to becoming the president of Liberia. And for the period she had been there, she has been very, very successful in making sure that there has been relative peace in Liberia.
So a well-deserved award, the Mo Ibrahim
Prize.
Well,
I think nobody's perfect. She will also have her own, failures. For instance, she's been accused that she was unable to track corruption in Liberia, just like every other president. But I want to say categorically that her ability to hand over and to organize an election and to hand over an election to somebody who was adjudged worldwide to have won the election is a credible is a credible way of appreciating her. And beyond that, for her ability to have maintained peace in Liberia, I think we should also give it to her.
So you're saying that's not a minus to her achievements, because even the prize committee admitted, that even though she was accused of tolerating corruption.
Very well, beyond tolerating corruption, even the women in Liberia are also accusing her that when she was coming on board the first time, she promised women in Liberia that she was going to turn their life around, and now she's going and she was unable to do all that. So you are bound to have, you see, you cannot satisfy everybody. That is one thing. But globally, I want to say that she has successfully done what most of us wouldn't have seen her doing. We would have just seen her as, well, a woman of a weaker vessel, like, in quotes, that, she will be influenced by higher authorities and here and there. But that was not the case in Liberia. She was able to maintain everything. The government was totally in control of her. And if all that was correct, then we should give it to her.
Do you think that her victory can motivate other African women to contest for presidency?
Of course. It's a plus to women. Women will always say what a man can do, a woman can do better. I think for Ellen's sake, I think I'll begin to allow myself.
What is the reality?
The reality is that if she could do it in Liberia, women in Nigeria, women in Ghana, women in other parts of Africa can as well do it. All we need to do is that we need to give them the opportunity. Opportunity in the sense that the women themselves should be able to rally around women contesting for elections. I want to tell you, when you go out during the electionary period, you find that women are mostly out to vote. And if we have women who are contesting in Africa, okay, and you have all these women rallying around that woman, I can tell you we'll have one of the best. Women have temperament. They know how to manage things. I want to give it to them.
Okay, let's talk about, her handing over leadership last month to the ex-international soccer star George Weah. Are you optimistic of a new Liberia under President Weah?
Yeah, Weah is a grassroots. Weah has always been loved in Liberia, but it's one thing for you to be a footballer and be loved, and for you again to also be a president and to be loved. And don't forget, as a president, he will have so many people, okay, who might not really want to be happy with him. Some people contested with him. You might have this theory of PhD, pull him down. And if that is in there, he will do little to satisfy everybody. But the fact remains that he is a grassrooter. He knows where is paining.
And you think
Liberians.
He will tackle corruption and poverty in the land?
Well, I'm not in position to say that now that he will be able to tackle corruption until he does it. Most African leaders will come and promise you, I'm going to fight corruption, I'm going to fight corruption. But you find out one thing, that the ability to fight that corruption, they always lose sight of it because most of them were also backed by, in quote, corrupt people.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Hekare. Declan Hekare, National Coordinator, Activist for Good Governance, for joining us on the program.
Thank you. Welcome.
Well, that has been Network Africa at this time. Many thanks for watching. I'm Millicent Walker.